Good evening from Melbourne Tullamarine International Airport. Today we'll be flying on Malaysia's low-cost carrier Batik Air's A330 all the way from Melbourne to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. As I haven't seen too many flight reviews on Batik's A330 on YouTube, I thought this would be a great opportunity to do exactly that. Check-in was a straightforward process given I only had my carry-on, even though my fare did include 20 kilos of checked-in baggage, which I thought was quite generous. Although this was a 12:30 a.m. departure, Melbourne Airport was slightly busier tonight given the fact this was the first Saturday of the Easter school holidays. So here we are, airside, finally at Melbourne Airport. Even as a Sydney-sider myself, I do have to admit that Melbourne Airport is quite modern and sleek in its appearance. Here I am walking through the duty-free section. Lots on offer if duty-free is your thing. However, going along with the theme of flying on a low-cost carrier, I did keep myself to a budget and did not purchase any duty-free. There is also plenty of retail shops airside as well. It did look like part of the retail space was under renovation, as you can see here. So it does look like they're going to introduce more shopping options for passengers in the future. So if that's your thing, then lucky you. While walking down this long, empty corridor, one thing I did think was really neat was this sign, which indicated the walking distance and time to each gate. Lucky me being at gate 6, not too far of a walk. And if you're looking for last-minute souvenirs, well, Melbourne Airport's definitely got you covered in that department, with a number of shops selling both Australian and even Melbourne-themed souvenirs. This tram, I thought, was a really neat touch. Not only a great photo opportunity, but it brings a lot of character, especially Melbourne-themed character, to the airport. And here she is, our chariot for today, taking us all the way from Melbourne through to Kuala Lumpur with a flight time of 8 hours. Registration 9MLFC with an age of approximately 11 years. Previously owned by Malaysia's AirAsia X before being handed over to Batik Air. Funnily enough, even though I was one of the first to check in, I somehow ended up being one of the last to board the plane. So here I am, making my way in a prompt manner down the jet bridge. One last look at our beaut of a plane taking us to Malaysia today. So without further delay, let's get ourselves boarded. And with a scheduled departure time of 12:30 a.m, I was pretty eager to get myself on that seat so I could have a bit of a rest. Thankfully, boarding was on time today, and boarding was completed in a promptly manner. And we're finally on board, yay! As I made my way down the aisle to my seat, I did take some time to admire the business class product, which is pretty much exactly the same as AirAsia X's with lie-flat seats. All in all, Batik Air has kept the same configuration as AirAsia X with 9 seats across, with the only noticeable difference being the colour scheme and the upholstery. I did appreciate the refurbished cabin though, as I thought Batik Air did a great job in bringing new life to the interior of the plane. And as I approached my pre-reserved seat 33A, I was pleased to see that there was not only no one in my seat, but no one in my row, and it stayed that way for the entire flight. So let's have a look at the seat. What have we got? We've got our safety manual here, standard offering, and we've also got ourselves a brochure, a Batik Air magazine with a Melbourne-themed cover page, as well as a food catalogue and some news, as well as duty-free merchandise as well. One really cool thing that Batik Air does offer on their flights is this wireless entertainment, which we will test later on in the flight. Legroom for someone of my height, 174 centimeters, I thought was comfortable. One thing I did see mentioned in a few negative reviews was cleanliness. However, upon close inspection, I didn't find that to be an issue at all. Recline was your standard budget airline offering, which I thought was fine. And overall, given the presentation of the cabin, the new upholstery, and the cleanliness, I would give Batik Air a thumbs up on their low-cost hard product.
We should be able to complete the formalities for departure in the next 30 minutes from now. Flight time.
The flight tonight was bang on time, and by about 12:20 a.m. we were pushed back and taxiing to the runway. And at exactly 12:31 a.m. we started rolling down the runway. Next stop, Malaysia. I'll give you a few minutes to appreciate this early morning takeoff out of Melbourne. And as soon as the seatbelt sign turned off, I took the opportunity to turn on my Wi-Fi and connect to Batik Air's wireless entertainment, which came up no problem. Here's the interface. In terms of movies, you've got both international movies and new releases, as well as some classics. Internationals were mainly Bollywood. New releases, only 3, none of which recognizable, but thankfully the classics, even though old, were definitely watchable and would probably get you through the flight if you really didn't have your own device or your own entertainment. And in terms of TV shows, there were a few there. I didn't really take the time to click on any of them, but they were there. And if you're someone who would rather browse through the food catalog online, you can definitely do so through the wireless entertainment, even though you cannot order online. It's essentially just a PDF version of the menu. And they've also got their safety video online as well, if that's something you fancy watching. However, my favorite feature of all, which they do have, is an interactive flight map, which I was able to use throughout our flight to check up on our progress. I always appreciate an interactive flight map, and it does help me get through the flight. So I thought, overall, this was the best feature offered in the wireless entertainment, and it's also available in a few different languages. And as the great Noel Phillips would have it, here's the loo review. I only used the loo once on this flight, and that was pretty much just to film this. So what we've got is a baby changing table which folds out, and pretty much it's a very basic offering. It's clean though, which Batik Air definitely gets points for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing I can complain about, but nothing to write home about either. And with the whole row to myself, I was able to make myself what I call a poor man's business class bed. So essentially I slept across 3 seats and got a solid amount of sleep in. I believe I got 5 hours of sleep and woke up to this announcement by the captain that we were making our descent into Kuala Lumpur a whole 1 hour ahead of our scheduled arrival time of 7:15 a.m. So points to Batik Air again for timeliness, especially on this particular flight, because we boarded on time, we departed on time, and we ended up arriving into Kuala Lumpur at around 6:15 a.m, a whole 1 hour ahead of schedule, which I thought was outstanding. So here it is, our final approach into Kuala Lumpur. I'll give you a few minutes to appreciate this landing into Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Unfortunately, due to the humidity outside, the windows did fog up, which caused my phone to defocus just as we were touching down. Oh well, at least we recorded something. And so here we are on the ground in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So I guess that begs the question, what did I think of the overall experience? Well, to summarize it in one sentence, I would say great value for money. I thought, given the price point, I paid 270 Australian dollars one way from Melbourne to Kuala Lumpur, including 20 kilos of baggage and free seat selection. The flight itself was on time, and in fact, we got into Kuala Lumpur ahead of schedule. On board, it's essentially no frills. There's no in-flight entertainment unit, there's no power sockets, and there's no USB ports. However, they do have the free wireless entertainment, so be it a bit basic, I thought that was a nice touch. Overall, the flight was on time and comfortable, the cabin was clean, and the crew were friendly, so given the price point, I would definitely give them my thumbs up. As always, thanks for watching this flight review, and if you have any questions, please feel free to pop me a message in the comment section. Until then, see you next time.